The grim location where the body was discovered is now concealed beneath a police tent, a stark reminder of the tragedy that unfolded. Situated about 50 yards from the main road, this area, known locally as a nature reserve, lies adjacent to a private housing estate. The surrounding woods, often frequented by joggers and dog walkers, now held an unsettling secret. On May 31, 2007, the quiet town of Walton-on-Thames, Surrey, was shaken by the unsettling news of a woman reported missing. Kate Beagley had failed to show up for work, and her absence sent ripples of concern through her family and friends. Her father, Alan Beagley, was particularly worried, recalling that she had been out the previous night. Fueled by concern, Alan rushed to Kate's home, hoping to find her safe. However, upon his arrival, he was met with silence. She was nowhere to be found, nor had she attended a scheduled appointment. This sudden disappearance was entirely out of character for Kate, prompting her father to report her as a missing person to the police. The search for Kate extended beyond the police force. Her friends rallied together, conducting their own investigations and plastering the area with missing person posters, desperate for any leads. At that time, Facebook was still in its infancy, yet they created a group to share updates and gather information. Kate Beagley, 32 years old, was remembered as a remarkable and loyal individual, known for her radiant smile and unwavering support for those around her. She was the type of friend one could always rely on during tough times. Employed at a FTSE 100 company, Kate's exemplary work ethic had secured her a prominent position as a national compliance manager with the gas company Centrica. She was adventurous, loved to travel, and had a wide circle of friends who admired her zest for life. Diligent and responsible, Kate would never simply vanish without informing anyone of her whereabouts. This was a seemingly tranquil area, where crime was a rarity, yet the unsettling nature of her disappearance cast a dark shadow over the community. Compounding the anxiety surrounding Kate's case was the haunting memory of another infamous crime, the abduction and murder of Millie Dowler. Millie, just 13 years old, had been taken in Walton-on-Thames in March of 2002, her remains discovered months later. This heart-wrenching case captivated the nation, dominating headlines as the search for Millie's killer persisted for years. It wasn't until June 23, 2011, that Levi Belfield was apprehended, already serving time for 2 other murders and 1 attempted murder. Found guilty of Millie's abduction and murder, Belfield received a life sentence with no possibility of parole. Yet at that moment, Kate remained missing, and the shadow of Millie's unsolved murder loomed large. With Millie's killer still at large, the police faced immense pressure to reassure the public and provide answers to the growing fears. Then, an alarming twist emerged. Kate's friends began receiving text messages from her phone. These messages, however, bore little resemblance to Kate's usual tone. Each individual has a distinct way of communicating, and the texts emanating from Kate's phone just didn't fit her pattern, raising further concerns about her safety. In a startling turn of events, investigators noted that Kate Beagley had used language that was uncharacteristic for her. During a thorough search of her home, the police unearthed a second phone. The missing persons unit took immediate interest, meticulously examining the device for clues. The investigators decided to reach out to several contacts stored on the phone. Among them was a man whom Kate had gone on a date with just a day before her disappearance. Her friends knew little about him, only that his name was Carl. Carl Taylor had crossed paths with Kate at a club in central London weeks earlier. Doubts lingered regarding whether she had returned to his flat after their outing, as her family felt it unlikely. But who exactly was this Carl? Residing in a modest 1-bedroom flat in Covent Garden, he had lived there for nearly 8 years. Carl, while having a criminal record, did not raise immediate alarm. His past included a conviction in 2002 for obtaining property by deception and a serious suicide attempt that year. His mother had urged him to seek help, leading to consultations with psychiatrists. Text messages between Kate and Carl surfaced, confirming plans to meet. The crucial first hours after a person goes missing are vital for evidence collection. With little to lose, the police took the significant step to call Carl's number, and to their surprise, he answered. Carl claimed he was indeed the last person to see Kate, asserting that she had dropped him off at Twickenham before he took a bus home. However, this account raised eyebrows, as it failed to align with the evidence. The police sought insight from his mother. As the investigation deepened, it was revealed that in the early hours of May 31st, the day Kate was reported missing, Carl arrived in a Volkswagen Golf, a car she did not recognize. Witnesses noted he was cleaning it, claiming he had borrowed it from a woman who needed it prepped for her children's school run. But Carl's story unraveled quickly. The Volkswagen Golf he was driving was Kate's. If he had been dropped off by her and hadn't seen her since, why was her vehicle in his possession? If there was an innocent explanation, why hadn't he volunteered this information to the police immediately upon learning of Kate's disappearance? Further investigation into Kate's case revealed more troubling evidence. The police discovered that Carl had not only retained her Volkswagen, but had also given his mother shopping vouchers at 6:15 that morning, vouchers that belonged to Kate and had been stashed in her glove box. In a shocking twist, Carl had sold what was later identified as Kate's phone to a friend, and was even boasting about his new car. Additional inquiries revealed that her Volkswagen had been spotted just before midnight on the 30th, driving erratically over Chiswick Bridge, heading away from Kate's neighborhood. Witnesses described the driving as erratic, and a vigilant police officer had noted the vehicle's details, promptly logging it for further investigation with the police national computer. The evidence began to pile up, originating from Kate Beagley's glove box. In a reckless act, Carl had sold her phone to a friend, boasting about his new car. Further investigation revealed that Kate's vehicle had been spotted just before midnight. On the night of the 30th, it had been driven over Chiswick Bridge, headed away from Kate's residence. Witnesses described the driving as erratic, prompting a police officer to log the incident for further checks with the police national computer. As hours slipped away, the reality of the situation grew increasingly dire. It became apparent that Kate had likely suffered serious harm. Carl Taylor, at 27, was a trained martial artist, a football coach, and a fitness instructor. His physical prowess made it easy to overpower someone like Kate. The police recognized the urgency of bringing him in for questioning. If this was merely a misunderstanding, Carl had a crucial opportunity to clear his name. However, a troubling issue arose. The man who had answered the phone so readily that morning was now unresponsive to the police's attempts to reach him. Typically, police calls display as no caller ID, a tactic that likely informed Carl of who was trying to contact him. In a twist, the officers decided to call from a personal phone, and to their surprise, Carl picked up. He recounted the same narrative, yet his reticence regarding details raised further suspicions. The officers informed him that 2 detectives would be traveling to London to take his statement, as his responses thus far had not alleviated their concerns. Carl then proposed an unusual alternative, a meeting at a party he was scheduled to attend that evening at a flat in Holland Park. This request struck the officers as peculiar. A woman he had recently dated had vanished without a trace. To complicate matters, he was seen driving her car, all while behaving as if nothing was amiss. When the officers arrived at the party, they took him aside for a private discussion, but their unease only deepened. Carl's responses were evasive, his answers lacking clarity. As guests began to flood the party and the alcohol flowed freely, the atmosphere became increasingly unsuitable for a police interrogation. Meanwhile, Carl's demeanor shifted, revealing the facade he struggled to maintain. Carl Taylor's agitation was palpable, his irritation escalating to alarming levels. This behavior raised serious concerns for the safety of the officers present. Recognizing the potential threat, the decision was made to take him into custody and transport him back to Walton-on-Thames. Yet, the officers remained acutely aware of the risks involved. As a precautionary measure, backup was summoned from the Metropolitan Police Force, ready to intervene if necessary. While waiting for their arrival, the detective sergeant on the scene crafted a strategic excuse to lure Carl out of the flat, hoping to gain an advantage in the unfolding situation. Unbeknownst to him, Carl had walked downstairs and entered their car, only to be arrested on suspicion of kidnapping Kate Beagley. He was driven back to Walton and placed in a cell as the case was handed over to the major crime team, setting the stage for a complex investigation ahead. With Detective Chief Inspector Mark Preston at the helm, the urgency of their mission was palpable. They needed to extract vital information from Carl if they were to stand any chance of locating Kate. However, despite their best efforts, his story remained unchanged, and still, there was no sign or word of Kate. In a decisive move, the police rearrested Carl Taylor, this time on suspicion of her murder. He was once again subjected to interrogation, but this time he clammed up completely. No comment was the only response he offered to every question posed. In light of his continued silence, the police secured a court order to extend his detention. The police needed more time to interrogate Carl Taylor, yet he remained resolute in his silence. He offered no explanation for possessing Kate Beagley's car or for being captured on CCTV at a garage, where he had bizarrely chosen to purchase just £1 worth of petrol. This disturbing evidence painted a dark, albeit circumstantial, portrait of his involvement. The investigators knew they required something more concrete, something that would compel him to speak. Thus, he was returned to his cell, left alone with the weight of the evidence pressing down on him. In the solitude of his cell, Carl was left to ponder the evidence stacked against him. On Sunday night, he was granted another phone call with his mother. Meanwhile, the decision was made to conduct a further interview. Detective Chief Inspector Mark Preston, having been awake for over 24 hours, made the choice to go home and rest. But as soon as his head hit the pillow, the phone rang. It was the station. Carl Taylor had confessed. In a shocking revelation, Carl confessed not only to murder, but also promised to lead authorities to where he had hidden Kate's body. His account was as callous as it was horrifying. Driven by a desire for her car, he had launched a brutal attack to seize it. When Kate fought back, he responded with a frenzy, repeatedly stabbing her. He chillingly recounted to the police, stating that, "She pushed me away." He described how, in a panic, he had stabbed her in the throat, claiming he constantly and consistently cut her in the neck because she was going for my face. Yet, to the officers, his narrative raised more questions than it answered. Physically, Carl was much stronger than Kate and had martial arts training, so the officers questioned his need to resort to a weapon against someone he could have easily overpowered. Their skepticism grew, and they were not convinced by his story. Carl claimed he had disposed of her body near Watford in Hertfordshire. Consequently, the police contacted Hertfordshire police, seeking their assistance in the search. The operation was substantial. They needed to ensure every moment was documented, meticulously filmed and recorded, to avoid losing any critical evidence. Under caution, Carl was transported with the utmost care, as authorities aimed to keep him secure while also safeguarding the public. The night deepened as they set off towards Watford, with Carl issuing directions, leading them into the unknown. But the question lingered. Was this merely another red herring? Carl Taylor led the officers to a dimly lit car park at a local nature reserve known as Oxywoods. The atmosphere was thick with unease. The darkness was so profound that one could scarcely make out their own hand in front of their face. With a sense of grim determination, Carl stepped out of the vehicle and gestured toward a patch of stinging nettles. One officer cautiously maneuvered around the back, deliberately avoiding any obvious path a killer might have taken. Tragically, the search for the missing person reached a heartbreaking conclusion when, at 3 o'clock that morning, Kate Beagley's lifeless body was discovered. The area was swiftly cordoned off, transforming into a scene of horror as crime scene examiners commenced the meticulous task of gathering and preserving evidence. In the wake of this devastating discovery, a statement was released on behalf of Kate's family, her grieving parents, Alan and Claire, struggling to comprehend the tragedy that had befallen them. Carl directed the officers to the patch of stinging nettles once more, his demeanor unsettling as the gruesome reality of the situation unfolded. An officer circumvented the area, mindful of the killer's potential escape route. The missing persons case tragically concluded with the discovery of Kate's naked body at 3 o'clock that morning. Immediate action followed. The area was secured as crime scene investigators undertook their grim duties. A release from Kate's family detailed their heartbreak, conveyed through her parents, Alan and Claire, who were left to grapple with an unimaginable loss. Her brother, Guy, expressed the deep love and admiration the family held for Kate, describing her as a loving, thoughtful, dependable, loyal, and immensely popular daughter, sister, granddaughter, godmother, and friend, devoted to those who knew her. The void left by Kate's absence was palpable. Flowers began to accumulate at the crime scene, left by those who felt profoundly affected by her tragic fate. One poignant message read, "I never met you, but I feel like I have known you for a lifetime. My heart goes out to all those who were blessed with your love and friendship. The place is a sorrier place without you." The severity of Kate's injuries, compounded by the sweltering heat, hastened the decomposition process, rendering formal identification impossible at first. The authorities were left with no choice but to rely on DNA analysis to confirm her identity. Her clothes had been stripped away, and her body had been washed with a disturbing intent. Carl Taylor chillingly claimed he wished to spiritually cleanse her, leaving her exposed to the stars. Aside from her body, no additional evidence was uncovered, despite exhaustive fingertip searches. The search yielded no murder weapon or any personal belongings of Kate's. Later, it emerged that Carl had disposed of the knife while driving down the motorway after the heinous act of dumping her body. In a remarkable turn of events, officers managed to locate the murder weapon. Alongside the knife, investigators discovered some of Kate's clothing, revealing further chilling details. It became clear that she consistently kept bottles of water in her car, which were also found at the scene, some having been used to wash her body. Disturbingly, her blood was later identified on the knife. Recognizing the potential significance of her vehicle, the police knew they needed to track down Kate's car, which could serve as a crucial piece of evidence. In a startling twist, Carl offered to disclose its location, claiming it was parked on an estate in Halston, London. True to his word, the car was eventually located there. The post-mortem examination unveiled a horrifying catalog of injuries inflicted upon Kate Beagley. More than 30 stab wounds marred her neck, face, and head. This devastating revelation shattered her loved ones, plunging them into a grief that seemed insurmountable as they grappled with the violent reality of her death. Kate's family struggled to navigate the emotional turmoil of losing a cherished friend while grappling with the violent circumstances surrounding her death. As they sought answers, one question loomed large. What truly transpired that fateful night? The man who had previously remained silent now agreed to lead detectives to the pub in Richmond Hill, the site of his first date with Kate. Across the road lay an embankment overlooking the Thames, adorned with benches where they had shared moments of laughter. Carl claimed it was on one of these benches that he had attacked her, a chilling assertion that would haunt the investigation. Traces of violence marked the scene, with blood splattered on the ground, the steps, and the handrails leading back toward the pub. Forensic testing confirmed the heart-wrenching truth. The blood belonged to Kate Beagley. With the weight of evidence mounting, authorities made the critical decision to charge Carl Taylor with the murder of Kate Beagley. Despite his confession and the overwhelming evidence against him, he entered a plea of not guilty, setting the stage for a trial that would leave a lasting mark on the community. In a shocking twist, Carl began to assert that he acted in self-defense, claiming that Kate had taken her own life. To strengthen their investigation, police returned to the nature reserve where Kate's body had been discovered, determined to uncover any additional clues that may lay hidden in the underbrush. Believing the murder had sexual motivations, the police meticulously collected over 100 used condoms from the area. Each was tested, yet none bore the DNA of either Carl or Kate, leaving investigators with more questions than answers. In a disturbing development, it was later reported that while incarcerated, Carl Taylor had formed a friendship with none other than Levi Belfield, the infamous murderer of Millie Dowler. Unbeknownst to many, he had also befriended Mark Dixie, another figure steeped in notoriety. Laura Richards, the former head of Scotland Yard's Homicide Prevention Unit, reflected on how Carl had connected with notorious figures, including Levi Belfield, whose crimes were the subject of a previous episode, the murder of Sally Ann Bowman. The three men began to coach one another for their upcoming trials, forging a peculiar alliance. Richards recounted how Levi Belfield and Mark Dixie cultivated a bizarre camaraderie after being placed in adjoining cells at Belmarsh Prison, later welcoming Carl Taylor into their fold. Together, they began manipulating prison psychologists with their schemes and tactics, crafting an unsettling bond as they prepared to face justice. In the coming weeks, all three would stand trial at the historic Old Bailey Courthouse in London. The Old Bailey, a venue steeped in the legacy of infamous trials, now prepared for the case of Carl Taylor. Anticipation filled the air as the public gallery overflowed with individuals eager to witness justice for Kate Beagley. Throughout the proceedings, Carl Taylor maintained his claim of innocence. However, the prosecution countered with chilling evidence, including Carl's own prior confession to the murder of Kate. The jury learned that their paths had crossed on May 18th, a significant date that would haunt the case. Kate and Carl first crossed paths at the CC Club in Piccadilly, central London, where they agreed to embark on a proper date in the weeks to follow, selecting a pub in Richmond Hill as their destination. Throughout their time together, Kate appeared disinterested, seemingly ignoring Carl's presence. A witness would later inform police that from the moment they sat down, Kate kept her head down, absorbed in her mobile phone, leaving no room for conversation. As the date unfolded, Carl found himself doing all the talking, while Kate remained engrossed in her phone, texting continuously. She was still focused on her screen as they stepped outside to a bench on the embankment. Unbeknownst to her, Carl had concealed a pair of scissors and a carving knife up his sleeve. In a desperate attempt to defend himself, Carl Taylor testified that Kate was a kind woman who was struggling, suggesting she had the intention of ending her own life. He claimed he had done everything within his power to prevent her from harming herself, yet the severity of her injuries proved to be insurmountable. Under the scrutiny of the courtroom, Carl Taylor claimed that there was no conceivable way Kate Beagley could have inflicted her fatal wounds upon herself without losing consciousness. In a calculated move, the prosecution rolled up a piece of paper to simulate a knife, handing it to Carl. They demanded he demonstrate for the judge, jury, and court exactly how Kate allegedly stabbed herself in the face. With an air of defiance, Carl refused to comply. Judge Charles Forrester swiftly reminded him that he was not in charge of the proceedings and needed to adhere to the court's instructions regarding this disturbing demonstration. Carl described the situation as both ridiculous and humiliating. He recounted that Kate had been prodding at her neck while simultaneously tugging at her hair, causing her head to move erratically. Overwhelmed by the chaos, he admitted, "I didn't know what to do. I just stood there in awe." In the harrowing moments that followed, Carl realized Kate had passed away. Consumed by grief, he collapsed onto the grass, looking up at the sky while tears streamed down his face. Afterward, he dragged her lifeless body to his car, where CCTV footage captured him stopping at a petrol station to purchase a mere $1 worth of petrol. Kate's body lay concealed in the boot of the car. During the trial, it came to light that Carl had penned a letter to Kate's family from his cell at Staines Police Station. The letter began with a chilling introduction. "My name is Carl. I am the guy who met your daughter on Friday night." In a moment of eerie reflection, he described his first impression of Kate as being that of a kind yet unhappy girl, to some extent. He continued, revealing a glimpse of his troubled perception, stating, "During the short time I spent with your daughter, I began to see that she was an angel. Even in her absence," he claimed, "Kate shone brightly like a star in the night sky." In a haunting admission, he said, "I may have taken your daughter's life, but we all know, some of us more than others, that her heart still beats in the good we all do." He insisted that her soul lived on through the cherished memories of her. Carl confessed that his own life had been profoundly affected, revealing that long before this tragedy, the absence of significant events had shattered his heart. Yet, he added, "Your lives, with much respect, will not be defined by Kate's memory." In a haunting revelation, the perpetrator expressed a twisted sense of remorse, claiming that angels walk among us, yet sometimes must ascend to heaven. He acknowledged the harsh realities of life, where goodness often meets with rejection. He lamented his actions, admitting his wrongdoing. But with chilling defiance, he posed a question. Whose life did he truly take? He did not anticipate that his words would ease the pain of the grieving. Instead, he urged those left behind to remember Kate, to cherish the enduring love they held for her. The memories of Kate lingered, echoing like the drumbeats of a heart. Her loved ones were reminded to think of a star whenever they felt her absence, for she would shine eternally in their hearts. The bond remained unbroken. She had not lost them, nor they her. Sometimes, even without touch, a flower can grow. The detectives, upon intercepting a letter from Carl, decided it was best not to reveal its contents to Kate's family. Just 2 hours after deliberating, the jury reached their verdict. As the trial reached its climax, the jury returned with a verdict. Carl Taylor was guilty. The public gallery erupted in cheers, celebrating the announcement of his life sentence, a minimum of 30 years to serve. Judge Charles Forrester addressed Taylor, declaring, "I am satisfied that this was a murder committed for gain." The judge continued, outlining the gravity of the crime. "You approached this girl armed with a knife. She sought nothing more than friendship, yet you exploited her vulnerability." In a moment of defiance, Carl interrupted, denying the charges. "I didn't, Your Honor." Undeterred, Judge Forrester pressed on, branding Carl's actions as premeditated. "The knife was concealed on your person. After committing this heinous act, you callously concealed her body. The judge painted Carl as arrogant, manipulative, and dangerously unrepentant. Meanwhile, flowers now adorned the place where Kate's life was tragically cut short. One poignant message read, "We miss you, Kate, and wish you were still this side of the rainbow." In the aftermath of the conviction, Kate's father stepped outside the court, his voice heavy with grief. "I speak for us all when I say our lives will never be the same again. Our family has been shattered, and life feels hollow without Kate now that the case has concluded." 7 detectives from Surrey Police and the Metropolitan Police received commendations for their unwavering dedication. Deputy Chief Constable Craig Dunholmes remarked on the complexities of the investigation, which spanned 3 police forces. The conviction that secured a life sentence for Carl Taylor was a testament to the remarkable teamwork displayed by the officers involved. The violence that Kate endured in her final moments was truly horrific, the kind of nightmare that haunts the soul. The cold reality of how Carl disposed of her body only deepened the sorrow. Though he would serve a life sentence with a minimum term of 30 years, it was clear that Kate's loved ones were condemned to a lifelong sentence of grief and loss. The haunting grip of loss is one that Kate Beagley's family will never escape. Her father, Alan Beagley, shared a poignant reflection. He described the lingering emptiness that envelops him, a cold weight he knows will never lift. He remembered Kate, a vibrant soul, full of life. In a heart-wrenching moment, he pondered, what must it have felt like for her during those final terrifying seconds? In the brutal aftermath of Kate's savage attack, the sheer terror and confusion of that moment reverberated through the lives of many. The impact of such a cruel act has left indelible scars. Alan's wife, Claire, struggles to find solace in anything. All she sees is an overwhelming emptiness that now colors her existence. Gratitude fills the hearts of the Beagley family for the support of their viewers and patrons. They invite all to join their tight-knit community on Patreon, a lifeline that helps sustain their channel. Their appreciation for every supporter runs deep, as it allows them to continue their mission. Joining the community offers more than just support. It grants access to exclusive behind-the-scenes content, extra episodes, and early ad-free viewing experiences.